Hi, and welcome to Stimming and Stilettos with Dr. Tasha. And y'all, this episode I'm very excited about. So many of you guys don't know this, but when Stimming and Stilettos started 10 years ago, so this is the 10-year anniversary. And so we're going to be doing a lot of things to celebrate this 10-year anniversary of Stimming and Stilettos. So there's been 10 years of stuff. Um, us, we didn't start off with just me. We started off as a we. And so Maria Johnson was my co-host so many years ago. Can you believe it's been 10 years? I'm still shocked.
Dude, we old.
10 years ago, we started off doing this show, and it didn't always start off as Stimming and Stilettos. We started off just sort of trying to do stuff. And so we're going to tell the story, but I want to introduce this new audience to Maria Johnson, or Maria Johnson, because we've just been together for so long. And so I want to introduce everybody to Maria Johnson. And y'all, I want to, first off, let me tell you, our evolution as friends, from colleagues to friends, is just y'all. We were colleagues and we weren't even friends. We were just sort of like, hey, it's like we're so dissimilar, and but so similar all at the same time. So it's going to be a lot of laughs and a lot of like, how did this even happen? At the same time, y'all. I hope you guys can see and enjoy this I don't know, trip down memory lane, and come to have some appreciation for how Stimming and Stilettos came into being. And um first off, I just really want to say thank you for just saying yes to this kind of harebrained idea of a thing, and coming alongside of me and saying, okay, yeah, like let's try this thing. And not saying no to, like, who is this girl? Like, who's this young woman who said, yeah, okay, and not laughing me out of your office that one day, and then saying, and then saying yes all of the subsequent times when I said, let's go and do this conference in Anaheim. And then every single time after that, when I said, hey, what about this idea? And then, hey, what about this idea? And then let's do a podcast. And then you just you just were my ride. You just ride.
Gosh, I first of all, let me tell you, thank you for inviting me onto Stemming and Stilettos. I don't even know what kind of clown show it was those first few episodes that we did. But uh, Tasha, I'm so proud of what you've done with this show and how far you've come with it. So kudos to you. This is very well done, and I think it's really speaking to a lot of women out there who really need and value your voice. So cool. But we're not here to be fangirling, are we? Let's just let's just hop on that train. So we met, right? We met at work,
Yep.
um, in very different areas. I was an English instructor, and we ended up. I think was it in Kansas City that everybody decided that in Kansas City they were going to go eat craw. No, no, what
Oh,
is it? Snow crabs or
yeah.
crab legs or something. And I was like, can we go get barbecue in Kansas City?
Yep.
And we hauled off walking
It was
in the
so
sketchiest
random, y'all.
town.
Yeah, it was random. It was completely random. Yeah.
And I think we just hit it off. And that started a collaboration because obviously you were very heavy in STEM.
Yep.
And I have always been a proponent of the arts and how important it is to write your story, tell your story. And I think it was just the perfect match for the explosion of creativity that followed. Because what did we do? We started the podcast. we did that program. Remember that little booklet that we published that was like the guide to success or something like that? And
What was oh my god, so y'all, once we met, we what we connected on was the idea that there was a need for, especially around the idea of women telling their stories. We definitely connected around that idea, and that the idea that writing your story, telling your story, around that idea, we connected so strongly around that idea. And so it was sort of like, how do we do that? And then there was this idea that students really needed, somehow or other, we were trying to get students to sort of, get them to sort of, how do we get the students to really, really,
can I tell you? Let me help you with that. It was
know
we wanted to shift their locus of internal control, right? Help them to
yes.
manifest their destiny instead of being subject to the people around them controlling their destiny.
Yes. And it was hard because they were so used to waiting for other people to tell them what to do and where to go and how to do it, that the idea that they had some modicum of control was foreign.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this little booklet idea was a gem.
Yeah, it was I found one the other day, actually. I just moved and I was packing and I like 5 of those little I think what didn't we call it like a passport? Because they
Yes.
had to get signatures from people. Wow, those were the days. Has 10 years gone by since all of that adventuring, adventuring, adventuring?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I guess I remember feeling there was so much freedom in what we were doing. It kind of people, and it was weird in a way, because what I've come to know, kind of being outside of academia, was we were doing things that, that we were not supposed to be doing in academia.
Straight up. But, those those students benefited from it, It was so that I made one of the VPs cry, when we first started doing remember I was doing a blog to have we were our college served an enormous refugee population,
Right,
at from so many different places. I mean, from Bosnia, from Ethiopia, from the Sudan was a big one. And a lot of these women didn't have a voice.
right,
And so they found themselves here in the United States. And like I'm asking them to write these essays, and like they have no opinions. And so when we got together, it was with the technology, right? I taught them to do the writing and to do the blog, and you were helping me get access to the technology that we needed to be able to do that. And when these women started to tell their stories, wow. Actually, I think, didn't we present that in Anaheim? Wasn't that one of the things that we presented?
right. And it was, but that was the piece. It was amazing because we were teaching the women, it was to tell the stories using technology, right? Tapestry.
That's it. Oh
Yes,
my gosh, you
it
just
was the
opened up a core
tapestry,
memory.
the tapestry project, right? And we were trying to that was the piece. It was the tapestry project. So we were trying to get them to tell their story, and we were creating a tapestry. That was it. Hallelujah. Memory.
I know, but isn't that the same today? And that's part of what you're doing here on the show, is that we're all different. I'm Cuban, and I came to this country as a refugee, and so like I'm pushing for a lot of Latino benefits, and just helping women in the Hispanic community find their voices. And there's so much overlap in everything that we do because that's all it's about. It's about it's not giving a hand up so much as learning to walk alongside. And the more that we're so willing to do that and engage with each other, the better things are going to be for individuals, but for communities and really for the world. I mean, I feel like I'm giving my little speech at the Miss USA or something. But
You know, there's truth in that though. And even though, you know, of course, mine is under the framework of STEM, but it extends beyond that in a larger sense. In all of the work that I do, I'm an advocate for women in general, right? In a larger sense, everything that I do um, is for the benefit of women, and in particular for the both of us is for women of color and marginalized women, because that is our reality. It is
right,
the world we walk through, the world as women of color, and women who we view the world through. I'm a black woman, you are a Latin woman, right? So we have a particular experience. So this is our reality. So this is how we have experienced the world. And so we tell those stories because it benefits those that have come before us. You know, you have daughters, I have a daughter, and I don't want those stories to get lost. They benefit her, they will benefit her daughters and her sons, so it's important to me because I feel like those experiences that I've experienced, they will help her and him and my son. And I don't mean them and the good and the bad. So it's not just all of these, the horrific stories, but the good stories as well, the joy that we experience, all the things. So I want them all to be told, so that they don't have the experiences that I have, but they do have the experiences that I've had. So they're all important.
yeah,
So
those stories, those connections, we're relational, we weren't created to be alone in the world. We're relational people. And I think that part of what the work that you do, and I do a lot of work in women's ministry, um, if we empower women, then ultimately we empower women and men
true.
and and families, whatever those families look like. It's what your core group is, and it's amazing how powerful we really are as women.
Yes, 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 and yes to that. So when we started, I always, as you know, I used to call us the little engine that could, because we literally started with a microphone and it was two chairs in my office, and we would literally put paper over the door, and we would be in there, and we would be like, shh, everybody, like, don't have no one come down this way, right? Literally, this was us in my office. It was, what are you guys doing, right? And then it became, I'm calling friends, um and we are doing video of friends, and you're calling friends, I'm calling friends, and we are trying to get this together, and we're taking this on the road.
Do
um
you remember the day that we hijacked the film studio at the school? We didn't have permission for
we
any of that.
at all. We're Like, you guys, we have taken over the film studio, and we are using hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment to do video.
We were sitting around the news desk. I think I think we talked Ramona into it. She gave us a little level of cred. If we were going to get in trouble, she was going to get us out of it.
Oh my God, yes, we did all sorts of things that we were not. This is what I'm talking about. We took liberties, because, but that, I love that we did that, because we just felt so in love with this project and what it is we were doing, because it was just the right thing to do, right?
Yeah, it was. It was. And we were focused on doing things for our students. This wasn't some kind of, listen, we were mavericks or renegades or rebels. I don't know so many words to describe us in those days.
Yeah, all of the above. But and then and like we were having events on campus. Y'all, we were just doing things.
But look at it was important. I don't think there's enough of that in education, you know?
No,
I I think that we were just it wasn't that we were left alone. We weren't even trying to fly under the radar. We were just doing our thing. We were just like, "Hey, Natasha, let's do this." And you were like, "Hey, Maria."
yeah, or exactly. It's like Johnson. Listen, I'm doing this event tomorrow. What are you doing at 8 o'clock? I have a class. We'll cancel your class. Have your class come here.
I think I did do that. I think that my class was your audience because nobody showed for that first thing. Hey, but listen, oh my gosh, listen, I'm crying here. I'm laughing so much. Do you remember that time? I don't even think it was legal. Should we even say this on the air? We were at an event in, I don't think it was, I can't remember where it was. It could have been, no, it wasn't Anaheim. Or did we go to Anaheim a couple of times for that national STEM thing?
Yeah.
Or I got permission to go, but my department only paid for my flight and one of the nights at the hotel, the night of wherever our presentation was, and you were there under your department's money, right? So I had to convince my department to pay for me for that arts in STEAM,
Mhm.
and my flight was leaving like I don't know Monday morning, and I was supposed to have left Sunday morning. I didn't have any place to stay Sunday
Yep.
night. So
Yep.
I squatted in your room,
Yep. I remember this.
which wasn't, I mean, it wasn't allowed, um, for a bunch of ethics reasons, but
Uh-huh.
that
I
was,
remember, I recall, because did Lord, we're gonna, well, it's too late now because it's like years and years. Y'all, we ended up at Disneyland.
oh, that's right, at the Lego store.
Y'all, we ended up at Disneyland the next day.
Oh my gosh,
Oh, oh my Lord.
those were wild
But
days.
but we also gave the presentation of a lifetime and ended up the next day with like so many contacts and
Yeah.
just, I mean, when I tell you, it's like I think that was the day you had sat next to a lady, and if I recall this right, and you sat in the session, and I remember Maria, y'all, this is how we ended up with like lifelong friendships. So we're in a session, and Maria is texting me, and she's like, um, I hope our session is our session is going to be so much better because this lady is texting in this session and she's not paying attention. She is
That
doing
was
work. And so that lady stayed in the session, and she was asking us some really hard questions in the session, but our session was so good. It was standing room only in our session.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but like I said, we were so passionate about what it is we were doing, about telling these stories, and we've always been that, right? When and we still are, so in our own ways. When I think what we should tell, what I want to ask you is, for you to tell the audience what it is you've been doing in the in the years since, so people can see that even though we've kind of moved on from, or you've moved on from here, but you're still telling stories in your own
yeah.
way.
That's right.
um so so they can see that it's in you to do, and everybody knows what I've been doing. So it's sort of, we've morphed into doing it in different ways, but we are still storytellers.
That's right. That's right. I think that and actually when we were talking earlier this week, I pointed out that you have really been such a spiritual mother to me, such a source of inspiration. I think that when we got together, and that's what made us magical in those days, is that when we got together, we inspired creativity in each other, and there was no competition. There, 'cause we were in very different areas, although we were collaborating very carefully and closely. But I think that we inspired creativity in each other, and I think that you went on shortly after that magical conference. You went on to get a grant
Yep.
for doing some of that work. And when I left education formally, but I'm still an educator in that I'm a retreat leader. I give inspirational speaking tours, and I'm an author. And those first little pretend books that we were putting together, that were actually very powerful little creative moments, gave me the confidence to say, okay, here I am working to get these women to tell their stories. I have a story to tell too.
Mm.
And so I was kind of curating stories of amazing women, and I got a hold of a Facebook post that was talking about this nun in the Wild West who faced down Billy the Kid 3 times. And I reposted the article, and I said, the world needs more badass women like this. And I don't think it was 5 minutes, Tasha, before an editor reached out to me and said, "You write that story."
Mm.
And so what I did was that I collected stories of amazing women. And like a nice little Hispanic girl that I am, I'm Catholic. And so, so I found saints that had those same qualities
Yeah.
um, of inspiration. And so I wrote this book, My Badass Book of Saints, and it became an award winning best selling book. And it was really, I owe so much of that book to that crazy attitude that we can do it. Let's do it. Let's figure out how to do it, that we had really fostered in each other. And then a bunch of things followed from that. I wrote a few more books, and I'm currently working as an editor, helping other writers hone their craft. And so it's still a kind of teaching, you know, it, uh, but
I gotta
it's
tell
really
you,
an amazing story.
I'm not even surprised. I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised because it's so you. It's so you. It's so you. Uh, I'm just, I'm so super proud of you. And I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy for you. It's just, I don't know. I'm so happy for you. I don't know. I can't stop smiling. I'm really happy for you.
Thank you. But isn't that what we do? If we can celebrate and not compete, and there's so much of the mean girl attitude out there today, that the only way to get ahead is to step on people. You don't need to do that. You walk alongside of them and encourage them. And what their good is your good.
Yeah. So one of my good girlfriends, um, her name's uh her name's Kelly, Kelly Collins. She says we don't compete, we collabosource. Which
Ooh, I like that.
so and I owe it all to her, So she says, a good, confident women, there's no need to, there's what are we competing for? It's like we can collaborate and resource. I was like, yes to that,
Yeah,
you
that's a
know.
that's a fabulous way to do it.
I was like, okay. I was just like, what? It's like, what do you even say behind that? Okay. So she has, and I think she's actually trademarked that word. So I was just like, okay, yes, let's do that.
Wow, I
And
love that.
yeah, so and ever since then, I was like, Right. Because I mean, what is this competition like? There's enough. The world is big enough, and there's so many of us. Do you know there's just in the same area anyway? Like, what do we? It's just so. Uh, let's stop it. Just stop it. Stop. Let's just stop it. And then not only that, but it's dumb in a sense. It's just like, what are we even doing? Especially in especially in this area where it's women of color in STEM. Come on now. There's so few of us. Like, why are
Yeah,
we
it's fair
competing? And
enough.
they want us to compete. It's like we're knocking out each other in a space where there's not so many of us. Like, for real? What? That
Yeah,
is dumb. Like, and I mean that in the way in which I said it. That is dumb. You
that's
know,
right.
it's already still in 2023, still a white man's world, and we're competing with each other. We really should be collaborating with each
Yeah,
other. we should
absolutely.
be we should be collaborating, and we should be a resource for each other. we should be we should be collaborating and being a resource for each other. Like, how did you do it? What are some resources that we can work together on? Where are the resources? How did you make it up? The latter. What are some inside things that you can tell me, that I just don't know? What is some work that I can do? Like that. Those are kinds of what it's just like,
Yeah, yeah. And don't forget the introductions because I think that the more men see us in these workspaces, the like I hate the idea that it's my role to have to educate anybody on how to behave. You know, that's stupid. But um, but I think that the more that we can bring in uh, women of all of all ethnicities and growth in the fields that we're entering, the more that we become more comfortable in those spaces, but also that those men become comfortable with us in those spaces,
you know,
because a lot of it is ignorance. There's sure there's bigotry, but a lot of it is just this is the way we've always done things, and so they're like on autopilot to just automatically gaslight us. I remember I was in a conference one time. I was in a conference room. I was on a board of an organization, and I noticed that every time I brought up an innovative idea, that it was, oh, we can't do that right now. And the next week, if somebody else kind of revisited that idea, it was brilliant. And I had an ally, excuse me, wow, I've been talking too much this week. I had an ally in that group, and I went to him and I said, listen, I want you to pay attention. I'm not asking you to do anything. I just want you to actively pay attention to when today I bring up this idea. Brought it up, shot down. And after the meeting, he says, well, maybe there were reasons for it being knocked down. I said, okay, write down a note in your book. We're meeting again next week. Let's see what happens. And don't you know, somebody revisited that idea and it was brilliant. And he came to me after the meeting and he said, I didn't know. I didn't know. And I said, you weren't paying attention. And I felt I felt validated in that moment. I didn't want validation. I felt validated in that moment because I was starting to feel that I just wasn't presenting it right,
mm,
and I think that that's one of those things that part of what I try to do today as I bring on young women is that I work so much on their confidence level. I
mm,
work so much on their, we've heard the studies. The difference between being assertive and being aggressive is whether or not you're wearing a dress. And and so I think that the work that we can do, I'm going to say as elders now in the workforce, not that my gray hair isn't, something that I work on to get nice and shiny, but that I think that as elders now, we're in that really unique position to provide that kind of support and that kind of encouragement to younger women entering the workforce, about that level of assertiveness and about that level of confidence and about that you are brilliant, you
Right.
are capable. You know, I think it was at one of those conferences that we went to. Was it in Denver? That we were we in Denver
Yeah.
together?
Oh my God, Maria, did we have any conferences we
I
go to?
know we traveled so much. We traveled so much, but at this particular conference, I think one of the round tables was with the vice president of development
Yeah.
for McDonnell Douglas, one of
Mhm.
the airplane manufacturer.
Oh, yes, 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 yes.
Do you remember her? I think that we tried to get her on the show, and whatever, her schedule was so busy. And her presentation was on women and their oh, what was the word that I just used? Now I'm thinking in Spanish. Their confidence level.
Yeah.
That if you're going to apply for a job and it has 8 qualifications and you only have 5, that you
Yes,
don't apply.
that's right.
But a man will have 2
And
and
we'll
apply.
that's right. That's right. Every time. It doesn't matter. They will apply. And you're like, they only have two and they'll apply every time. And a woman will have like they'll have four and they won't. They'll have it, it's like what? So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I remember that. I do remember that.
Yeah. So I
Um,
think that that's the work that we have now, right? I mean, we have all these other things that we're doing, but also to kind of shift the mindset in both directions with women and also with men. And the best way that we can do that is through our own competence, right, and our own leadership.
yeah, I think we have to. And what's really kind of it's kind of a weird mixed bag of things because even back then when we first started the show and as we did because I remember we did an episode because I had gone to a conference and do you remember the episode we did all the I think we did this episode that was called all the white men in the room because I go to this
Yes, because you were the only black woman in the whole group, and not even a woman of color. You were the only black woman.
oh, right. And we had to this conference and and it was called it, they had there was a session where they were doing a session where they were talking about how it I can't even remember what the session was, but I know it was about how to talk about or how to approach black kids, right? And every single one of the presenters were white. And I was like, huh, let me see how this goes. Because the audience was all white, presenters were all white. I look around and I'm the only black person in there. And I was like, well,
What?
what is this madness? It was the most bizarre, it was bizarre. And I just was like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. So the presenters are white, the audience is white. What is this about? Right. And I just remember being in there feeling very weird, like that this was what was happening. And I'm listening and they're talking and I start to raise my hand and I was like, this isn't going to end well because I'm feeling weird because I'm the only African American in the room and I'm getting ready to ask a question like, hey, and I know me and I know that this question is going to come out with a little bit of fire because
Oh boy.
African American. So what are you going to tell me about that? So I was just like, nope, I'm just going to leave. Right. And then I thought, well, what good is that going to do? So it was just one of those things where I need to go back and have, and talk this out amongst people who, so I remember that episode so clearly. Um, these are the
Yeah,
things we talked about, y'all. Um,
that was on the heels of the community work that I was doing in the small town where I lived in. I guess I can name it, right? Conyers.
yeah.
There was a there was an enclave of recent Mexican immigrants, because the Atlanta Olympics brought in a lot of construction work, and so there were a lot of migrant workers that were doing construction, and so the community needed to serve their family needs, right? And I remember this guy in the community put together this big initiative to build a baseball field for these kids. Remember that story? And
Mm.
so I had thousands of dollars to put in a baseball field, and the kids played soccer on it. And he was outraged that they tore up, the baseball field, and that backstop costs a lot of money. That's a lot of fencing. And I remember we were in a meeting, and he was just hurt. He was hurt that he thought he was doing a good thing, and but didn't bother to ask what they wanted,
Mm.
or didn't bother to learn enough about the culture to know they don't play baseball, they play
They
soccer.
play soccer.
And so, these are those moments that we encounter on the daily. They're not microaggressions because they're bigger than that, but it's just a matter of just not, this is, again, he grew up playing baseball. He thought that's the American thing to do, and so, could
And it
not think outside of that box.
and it was this it was probably the same. It was probably the same there. They didn't really think through what it actually looked like.
Hmm.
Then it was just like, so it probably, they probably just thought, if we're going to talk about, they didn't think about, if we're going to talk about how to address the issues of African American students, what it would look like to have non-African American people addressing this issue. Um, they didn't really think about what that would actually look like. They just thought, okay, what these people say, they know how to do it. And maybe they did, I don't know. But at the same time, I was like, this is the most bizarre thing that I've ever seen in my life. And it did not go over well with me. Um, and I felt some kind of way about it. And it just felt so weird to me. um, and I just remember I was talking to after I left, and I'm talking, and unbeknownst to me, actually, talking to one of the conference organizer, again, unbeknownst to me, and, and, and having a really frank conversation. And I just was just sort of unleashed on that individual. And it was just like, this is the problem, right? It's like, again, a Caucasian person talking about an issue that they can't really know about because this does not affect them in this way. you know I'm a person who lived through it, right? I'm a person who had firsthand knowledge. I'm a person who integrated a school at 9 years old, right? You cannot tell, it's like, I know firsthand what this is like. I'm a person who, you know I've experienced racism in school. I'm a person who was told that they would never read above a third grade level. I was a person who was told that they were mentally retarded, right? Like, I've experienced these things. I'm a person who's gone through the school system with, you know, I've had to have my records redone. It's just like, I've gone through all of these things. So I have a particular view of our school system that most people don't have. So sitting here with a DR in front of my name, it's like, should it be, right? So it's it's yeah, it's like, I have this. So it's it's problematic in a way. And and it's not that I don't think, those individuals, they may have had good intentions, and they probably did, but by the same token, you cannot tell me that there aren't others, there aren't African American people who could have spoke on it with a little bit more fidelity, who have, who could have, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
That's
that maybe that could have, that maybe have put in, that could have put in a presentation, that, all of those things could have been in place, but like, you chose those folks. What?
right, right. And even if maybe there were people behind the scenes who were doing that work, The representation wasn't there at the front end, right? The face of this group was not the face that should have been there, to just to put it bluntly. But I find that it's kind of sometimes it's disheartening. Sometimes I feel like I'm a superhero and I'm doing the work. When I'm in a group and I point out things like that, I'm like, like I'm the Spanish language editor for this organization. And when I look around, um, I'm very proud of how inclusive and how diverse the teams are. Um, but that's not always the case, and like how much of the work that I do, not at work, but in the, in the years since we weren't actually coworkers, in the things that I've done, how many times have I been like maybe the only Hispanic in the group, and or so I thought, only to have somebody come up afterwards and say, "Hey, it was very cool to see you here."
Mhm.
in a leadership role, or thanks for being thanks for having a wider scope in what you're talking about, that is much more aware that that we're here too, we're at the table too. And I think that it's kind of takes a lot of effort to always be on. I think is what I'm
Well,
saying.
that it it does. I think I kind of I think that's interesting. I think I've kind of settled in to it now. I don't think I feel the pressure that I once did when I was younger. Um, I think it gets hard to be the first and the only all the time.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't think I've been the first and the only for a really long time. But I've also settled into the notion that there's still first and onlys even in 2023.
Hmm.
Um, but it's still hard. Um, but I'm also I'm also of the thought that we have to. There's still battles to be fought, unfortunately, because we still unfortunately we there's still battles to be fought. You know,
Yeah,
and that's for all
that's
of us.
true.
There's for people of color, for women of color. There's still battles to be fought.
But let's put this happy spin on it though. Um, Back in the day when we were doing these wild things, we weren't looking at that, right? I don't think that that was our motivation. I think that our motivation was this is the thing to do,
Oh, that's true.
and I think that that's why. I mean, let's be honest, we were crazy successful.
We were. We were because I think we were successful because I think we were successful for two reasons. One, um, there was nobody else doing this work.
True.
Everybody was like, "So what are you doing again?" Oh, okay, you go ahead,
Okay.
right? Like,
What? Write it up. Okay, we'll write it up after we did it.
right, everybody was like, "Okay, go ahead and do this," right? Whatever, right?
Didn't somebody call us? Was it Katrina called us the dynamic duo? Oh, here they come. Here comes trouble.
Everybody was like, "Okay, those two," and because everybody was like, "What are you doing again?" Everybody was looking at us like, because everybody was like, this is what people would say. Everybody would be like Johnson and Anderson
Oh boy, again, again.
again.
Listen,
Um,
the only project that we had that failed, it didn't fail. It was just that it didn't get executed because there were so many things happening there was a lot of transition going on at the school at the time. But do you remember when we got the wild idea that we were going to teach biology and English as one course?
I thought that was such a great idea, though. Oh,
It was brilliant.
the idea was great. We almost pulled that off.
We almost did. I mean, we were like a semester away from it, and I remember I had that book, Henrietta Lacks,
Yep.
about the eternal. That was going to be the literary piece for it. One of my daughters, is in nursing school now, And she goes, "Mom, I found your copy of the Gila story. I had no idea." And man, I'm sorry we never pulled that off. That is probably my only regret.
We listen, y'all. So when we were at this college, was that when I was the director of dual enrollment. Was that okay?
Yeah.
So I was the director of dual enrollment at one point in my career. I've done a lot of things, just so y'all know.
And I come from a background of teaching high school.
Okay. So we, like I said, we were doing a lot of stuff, right? We were like, again, the dynamic duo of like harebrained ideas that like had legs. Like there was not a bad idea. So me and Maria were like, you know what? This is one of these ideas where we were going to pair together biology and English, and we were going to again sort of cross sectional, like so we were going to pull the relevancy between English and biology, and so people could see the two together, right? I thought this was a great idea. Like, let's do it. I think we had who else? There was another dean, VP, who was like backing us on this. I can't remember. Anyway, somebody else. We were like a semester away from making this happen. I can't remember what happened, but something big happened where we couldn't pull this off. We probably can't say on the show.
Probably not.
It's like we can't even call names, but something big happened as to why this didn't happen. And it was just such a, and if somebody takes this idea like and make it happen, like make it happen.
Yeah,
But
and please tag Tasha in it because I want to be able to follow up on if it gets executed. I mean, it was a brilliant idea.
it was y'all, it was such a great idea. Um, because these two subjects, like they go together. They really do go together. And it was just
Science is documentation.
right.
And writing, good creative, not good creative writing, good technical writing is documentation.
It was a semester away from happening. We had chosen the book, of course, biology is biology. So, but we had found a good professor and a biology professor, and they were working together to collaboratively to like put it to oh, we didn't pull it off, but almost. It was just such a good idea. It was just
We're like Pinky in the Brain, big brain energy all the time.
But steering in stilettos was one of our best ideas yet. Like y'all, we would sit and we would we would get together. We would do like 30 minutes that would turn into 45 minutes that would turn into an hour of us talking about ideas. And it was the best thing that I think we came together to do. It morphed into when Maria decided to retire. I felt like when Maria came to my office that said and told me that she was retiring, I said, "What?" I think she had to tell me 3 times. I think
Oh
she
my
really
gosh.
literally had to tell me. I mean, it probably
You
like
were
once
mad.
she probably had to tell me like once a week until she retired, like the actual day she retired. I'm not even joking. Like, are you for real? And like until the day like she came with her box, like in campus,
Did I
I did
leave?
not.
Did I replace all the Reese's candies that I ate?
And that is true because I had a candy box on my desk, and so she had to replace that before she left. But I didn't believe her. I was so like, Pinky in the Brain is no more. I felt, I mean, I was happy for her because, of course, people have to go and do what they need to do for themselves. I was like so happy for her at the same time, but I was just so like sad for myself because my friend was leaving. But at the same time, you can't, if it's someone's time to go, then it's someone's time to go. But to see her thriving and growing, and then her book is amazing. So she needs to tell you where to find her books. Um, So she has not told you where to find her books, but she needs to tell us. So I will link to it in the show notes so you can go and get them, because they are amazing. And I have one, but I don't have the second one. So
Oh no, you have the Supergirls book because you helped me. We collaborated a little bit on so the first book was just different women who were super amazing, and the second book was the characters, right? It was the superhero characters, and you helped me make sure that I got the right tone and the right angle for talking about Storm. Remember that?
I do, because Storm is my favorite. It's my favorite. So
So I went on to write books, and you guys can find me. Just look up Marera Johnson on Amazon, and they're all there. But you also are a most distinguished author, my friend.
I try. So for those people who don't know, I have written a few books. I've written I've been a collaborator on a few books. You can actually go to my website. Yay. Um drtasha.co. Please go there. You see my journals. I have a dream journal. I have a few journals that you can go, but I am a children's author. So please go and get my children's book, ABC Engineering. London Gets Curious, which is my latest children's books where we talk about 10 STEM careers that are out there for you if you are a I don't know, 8 to 10 year old girl and you're curious about STEM, please go and get it. I am working on right now my latest gratitude journal. So that hopefully will be out by the end of the year, hopefully before then. So I'm just so internally grateful to be able to, again, use my creative energy and put it into, I don't know, getting it out on paper like that. But again, I just spend my time being, and I spend my time being grateful. And I really want that for everyone else. I just get to do what I love every day. And so I want the same for everyone else. Stimming and Stilettos has been a labor of love for the past 10 years. And I get to speak with and meet so many other women of color who are working in the STEM fields. And I just can't believe that it's been 10 years of doing this. I had brunch with just some other women of color in STEM. Ooh, maybe about 6 weeks ago, and one of the ladies at this brunch um, is a fan, so she
Wow.
listens to, which was, I don't know, it was shocking, right?
You deserve it. You have your own fangirls,
Right, it's
not just
shocking.
me.
So I don't know why, but it's still shocking to me when I actually get to meet some of the people who listen to the show. And so she was saying how she tunes in every other week when there's a new episode. And so she was like, I've been listening to you from the very beginning. And she was the one who reminded me that she's been listening from the very beginning, from
Wow.
2013. And I said, what?
What?
So when she said that, I said, what? And so I said, wow, it's been 10 years. And so when she said that, I said, wow, it's been 10 years. And so I said, I really have to take a minute um and give honor to that, because I hadn't even realized that it had been 10 years. I've just been doing the work, and I hadn't really taken the time to really look up and see that it had been 10 years. I've just been
Wow.
sort of doing this thing for this long. And so I really want to I really want to thank you, Maria, because without you, I don't know that it would have been this thing, because I had you to say, "Hey, I got this idea." And honestly, without, because you never said that, you never said, "Hey, Tasha,
That ain't
girl,
gonna work.
girlfriend, what are you doing?" Like, I mean, Maria,
Never.
that she's not that woman. Maria would be like, "Hey, what about that?" Like, she would, she never said no, y'all. She just said, "Hey, what about this instead?" Right?
Oh
She'd
my
be like,
goodness.
"Oh, you might not want to go down that road, but you want to go down this road."
Amazing. Listen, I think it's just mutual. I mean, not that it's a mutual admiration society, but that it's mutual. Man, we were in it together.
Yeah,
And I think that that's what made two is stronger than one. Um,
yeah.
and we always had the other to blame anyway. So that was Maria's idea.
You know what's even funnier than that is that we never had to blame each other. I never.
I know it, right?
Johnson took me down this road.
Oh my gosh, you have opened up like a ton years of things I hadn't thought about. Listen, so I know the show's coming to an end soon, but I could talk to you for the next 3 hours.
Right.
Please tell me that you still have that big old cheese ball snowball microphone.
I do.
Please please post a picture of it in your show notes.
I do. Y'all, that's how we started. We started off with this big white, and then we would sit around it, and then we would all try to find,
Find this sweet spot. Meanwhile, I'm eating your Reese's candy.
and you would hear it. Y'all, it was a mess, but but that's how you start, and then you get better as you learn and grow how to do a podcast, and then you would see us in here trying to edit, and then try to do how in the world do you do show notes, and do we edit, and then yeah, then we had a script, and man,
We never followed the script.
we never
Can I tell you how completely comfortable I was coming on today and not knowing where we were gonna go with
just
this?
gonna talk. That's it. Yeah, because we never followed the script. And I was like, did we even cover this? Like, after that show was over, did we
No,
even cover this?
we never did we?
The whole conversation pieces that we said we're gonna cover.
Never,
Nope.
never.
Just anyway, but we've made it to now. So I've grown to include YouTube these days. And so um I'm I'm like I said, I'm ever so grateful that I started with you. And now we're grown to video, and I feel like I feel like we've evolved, and again, I couldn't have done it without you.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, and same here with the things that I'm doing now. I'm podcasting pretty regularly now, and I just it was just those were great foundational days for success today. Isn't
Yep,
that how that worked?
for
And I'm
sure.
grateful for you too.
Yep, for sure. I miss you, my friend.
Same. God bless you.
All right. Okay. So, in the coming weeks, you guys, we will be covering more. I think I want to talk more about where I see stimming and stilettos going in, I guess, the next 10 years. Um, I might have Maria Johnson on again.
Hey, listen, I'll be I'll be your ride on that one. I need to see I need to see what the next phase brings.
um, so yeah, we might have some more surprise guests on as we celebrate 10 years. We might have some more of the guests that started it all. So just be prepared for us to have more celebrations of 10 years of Stimming and Stilettos. So as we end the show, again, thanks, Maria. I really appreciate you. And to my listeners, as we end every show, you guys be safe until we meet again. Bye, y'all.